sea, estas son las preguntas que hicieron de la BlizzCon, ¿no? Del Q&A. Yo les puse también algo en el correo, ¿eh? Les puse una bomba. A ver si han hecho preguntas interesantes. The World Within Q&A, Classic Season of Discovery Q&A. Vale. Ok. Espero que hagan preguntas interesantes. Como la primera pregunta sea: ¿cuál ha sido la dificultad más grande para diseñar los delves? Cierro el vídeo. Como sea eso, o preguntar algo de lore que se sabe que no tiene respuesta, cierro el vídeo, lo digo en serio. Esta no la vi a Links. No la vi. Vi a varias, pero no vi a Links.
We're gonna have the Q&A about the war within. Please introduce yourselves.
Hey everyone, I'm Ian Hasekostas, game director on WoW.
Ole, mira.
Hello, my name is Morgan Day. I'm one of the associate game directors on World of Warcraft.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. And let's go straight to the questions. Our first question is from Fuser from the Warcraft Community Council, and they ask, in the near future, will a 2024 roadmap be revealed?
Voy a cerrar el vídeo. Voy a cerrar el vídeo. ¿Qué preguntas de mierda son estas, tío? ¿Qué putas preguntas de mierda son estas, tío? Tienes la oportunidad de hablar con los developers y le preguntas si te van a decir lo que van a sacar el año que viene, tío. Es que de verdad. Es que ¿cómo se puede ser tan subnormal? Te lo digo en serio. Pero es que encima esta gente ha filtrado las preguntas. ¿Cómo puede pasar el filtro esto? Bueno, supongo que porque es un buen movimiento de marketing, ¿no? Decir, hey, os contaremos todo lo que haremos el año que viene. Porque dirán, sí, lo revelaremos más adelante y queremos sacar contenido cada 8 semanas, no sé qué. Pero, tío, es que son cosas que la gente ya sabe, macho. Si ya te dijeron en el anuncio que iban a sacar contenido, las expansiones más rápido, estas 3 expansiones que iban a salir más rápido, ya lo dijeron, tío. Es que, bueno, en fin.
I can say that is something we're working on in the near future. Hopefully we can roll it out in the next couple of months. We love the reception, to us pulling back the curtain and setting expectations for what 2023 was going to look like. We're just, buttoning up some final details, but want to have a similar picture that we can lay out for 2024. I can say that even after Guardians of the Dream, that's just rolled out this week, players can expect 3 more updates to Dragonflight before War Within pre-patch. So we'll have all the details.
3 antes del preparche. 3. El 2.5, el 2.7 y el 10.3 que va a ser Fated, ¿no? ¿Me entiendo yo?
When the roadmap lands.
Our next question is from AJPST on the WoW subreddit. They ask, what do you guys think about the 3-day early access?
Esta sí que es buena pregunta, sí. Porque por lo que tengo entendido, sí, son 3 días antes, pero por lo visto no puedes hacer nada. Es como muy limitado los 3 días de acceso. A mí me parece muy mal, ¿eh? Me parece... dos cosas me parecen mal. Una, me parece mal que esté ligado a la compra de 90 euros los 3 días anticipados. Debería ser simplemente por el hecho de precomprar la expansión. Simplemente por precomprarla, tener 3 días. Y que luego cuando quede un mes ya no es precompra, con lo cual te pierdes los 3 días. Simplemente por haber comprado el juego antes de que salga. 2, quita un poco la magia, tío, de que todo el mundo empieza a ver la expansión, ¿sabes?
Yeah, so obviously we've seen a lot of discussion about the early access aspect of the Epic Edition in the last few days. So really where this came from, where this started, was us looking across the board to add value to the expansion bundles at all levels. So starting at the base edition of War Within, compared to Dragonflight, like that includes a boost now, which again was only available in Heroic and up in Dragonflight.
Hola, la edición normal trae el boost. Es que ya me da igual, como ahora estoy obligado a comprarme la épica, ya es que da igual que en la base pongas tonterías, porque estás obligando a la gente que se compre la épica de forma indirecta. Vaya. Oh, sí, no, es que en la normal ahora ponemos más cosas. Da igual, si es que estás casi obligando a la gente que se compre la épica. Es que más da lo que tenga la normal y la heroica. Es que...
It includes Dragonflight itself, if you didn't, own that already. So when we increase the value of the base level, we need to also make sure that the increased tiers have their own compelling offerings. And as we considered options, cosmetics, features, access, things like that, one of the things, of course, we paid attention to across the industry is the option of early access as well as beta access. We understand as a live game, as an MMO, as a competitive and cooperative game, there are some unique dimensions to any kind of early access offering here. And there's a little bit of fine print that people have seen on the website, but I want to just elaborate on what that means a bit more. We're really trying to do everything we can to ensure that this is really just a head start on leveling up. You can jump in and work on getting to 80, exploring the world, seeing the story, but Mythic Zero dungeons, weekly quests, things like weekly specialization cooldowns, the high-end treasure tables, if there are rares that drop limited epic, all those things that will feel like any kind of long-term competitive advantage are not going to be available during these first few days. For folks who are used to jumping in and just going hard at an expansion launch.
Ya, solo le veo, pero es que solo le veo es mucho, ¿eh? Es que no se pierde un poco la magia, tío, de que no empecemos a levear todos a la vez. Con lo bonito que es que no empecemos todos a la vez a levear. No sé, yo será porque estoy acostumbrado, ¿no? En el WoW a que empecemos las expansiones todo el mundo. Supongo que simplemente estoy acostumbrado y ya está, ¿no? Es quitarme la costumbre. Que sí, que no hay ningún poder ligado. Simplemente, pues, le veas antes el muñeco y ya está, ¿sabes? Que tienes una semana para hacer rare farming o 2 semanas para hacer rare farming. Pero claro, ¿no? ¿Será que estoy muy acostumbrado a los otros? No sé dónde ponerlo, los pongo arriba ya. ¿Será que estoy acostumbrado ahí fuera? Que sí, yo me la voy a pillar, evidentemente, y me leveré en 3 días a 3 muñecos. A un muñeco por día me leveré, ¿no? Está bien que no dejen hacer rare farming ni pillar tesoro ni nada. Eso está bien, eso está bien.
Familiar with the fact that those things have already traditionally been locked until the first weekly reset, until Tuesday morning in North America, Wednesday morning in Europe, Thursday morning in Asia. That is staying the same. We're just kind of pulling.
Imagínate, subo al 80 y cuando sale la expansión para todo me pongo a campear a todos los burritos nivel 70 con War Mode On. True. Se puede hacer mucho bullying, ¿eh? No lo había pensado así. Se puede hacer mucho bullying.
In that week 0 starting point a bit. The goal here is to make sure that certainly by the time season 1 starts, if you have 2 players with similar playstyles side by side and one of them had early access and the other didn't, you really can't tell which is which in terms of any competitive aspect of the game that matters. So it's looking to offer increased value where we can, but also roll it out and manage it carefully to make sure that it's fair.
Our next question is from Zyxlein from Germany. And they ask, if expansions are supposed to be released faster in the future, will that have an impact on the amount of content per expansion? And if not, how do you ensure that the quality and quantity remains?
That's a great question. Something we've also heard a lot of discussion around. Just want to be clear, obviously we're focused right now on the War Within, and that's what we're talking about. But as Chris Metzen laid out, we have Midnight and The Last Titan on the horizon. Those are WoW expansion, and we're not trying to, do some game shrinkflation here. WoW expansions are staying WoW expansions, right? When you see War Within, that's 4 zones, 8 dungeons, new levels, a raid, all of that stuff.
Ha hecho el meme de nueva expansión, 8 mazmorras, nueva raid, nuevas monturas. Ha hecho el meme. Ha hecho el meme de que todas las expansiones son, de que todo te lo pintan como nuevo y esto. Nada, pero sí, que... No, yo también tenía la idea de que lo iban a hacer como parches grandes, ¿eh? En plan, al principio. Luego se me quitó. Cuando ya lo explicaron bien, ya sí que entendí que eran 3 expansiones. Pero sí que a la gente se le puede haber quedado la idea de... Uy, no, es que son 3 parches grandes y ya está, ¿sabes? En plan, te lo están pintando como una expansión con 3 parches grandes. No, son expansiones como tal.
Much about Midnight, but I can say it's going to have 4 zones, dungeons, a raid, etc. And so really that's what we're holding to. Now, we've made no secret of the fact that we want to reduce lulls and gaps in our content.
Mientras no cuesten $60 cada una. No cuestan 60, cuesta 90. Si quieres tener la beta y quieres jugar 3 días antes. Y quieres levearte más muñecos más rápido. Y reza para que no haya una tercera guerra mundial o algo y la inflación haga que suba a 100. No te preocupes que no son 60.
A lot of the investment we've made in growing the World of Warcraft development team in recent years has been building towards realizing this exact goal. Being able to deliver a steady patch cadence, content update cadence like we've seen throughout Dragonflight, while still being on track for a big, ambitious expansion offering on schedule. And when you opt into War Within, you're not just signing up for what's there at launch, you're signing up for a continuation of that frequent Dragonflight style update schedule. Our main goal is to ensure that we're telling the story without meaningful pauses or lulls, but also at the same time not rushing through it and giving each, whether it's a narrative beat or a raid tier or whatever, the time that it needs to breathe and for players to really enjoy it at their own pace with the next thing on the horizon.
Yeah, and like Ian mentioned, there's 3 more updates coming in Dragonflight. One of those things will be a Season 4, like we saw with Shadowlands. And, that's an opportunity for us to do some fun experimental things, as well as to kind of revisit some of what we saw in Season 4 of Shadowlands. But there's also some, kind of awesome surprises coming in there that the team has really been looking at ways to, provide really
sorpresas en el
experiences to the players and really make sure that Dragonflight is fresh and exciting all the way through as we move into the War Within.
Espero que no sea en plan full copia de Shadowlands ya. Es que, joder, repetí, a ver, Fated me mola, pero sacrificar un tier entero por Fated no me mola, ¿entendéis? Entiendo que Shadowlands tuviese Fated porque, bueno, que si COVID, que si yo qué sé, que si poco contenido, no sé qué, dijeron, mira, os vamos a poner Fated para que podáis hacer algo, me pareció genial. Fated fue lo mejor de Shadowlands. Pero que no me quiten un parche para poner Fated, ¿sabes? ¿Entendéis? Que quiero jugar hasta el 10.3 o 11.3, ¿sabéis? Que sea todo nuevo, ¿entendéis? En plan, es mucho pedirle a la empresa multimillonaria que saque 3 parches. Es mucho pedir. Lo hicieron en Legion, lo hicieron en BFA. Es mucho pedir, tío. ¿Qué es ese concepto de Fated? Cuando llegue la Season 4, no va a haber raid nueva ni zona nueva. Va a ser temporada nueva, pero lo que vamos a hacer es revisitar toda la raid de Dragonflight. En Shadowland estaban las 3 raids, ¿no? Estaba Castillo de Nazria, Sagrada de Dominación y Sepulcro de los Primeros. Y lo que hacíamos era, cada semana una raid se abría. En orden. Cada semana una raid. Tenías una semana para tirar la raid. Y la raid tenía afijos, como una mítica plus. Los bosses tenían afijos. Afijos que te daban daño. De que tipo salían ads, los matabas y te daban daño. Había una copia que tenías que curar y si lo curabas hacías daño al boss. Había un bicho que le tenías que cortar y si lo cortabas bien le hacías daño al boss. Es como, era súper fácil hacer la raid. Vamos, no tenía dificultad ninguna. Si tirabas mítico, lo podías tirar en una semana. Y eso, y era revisitar la raid, porque cada semana una raid diferente de la raid de la expansión. Luego también era más fácil conseguir equipo porque haciendo una cadena de quest de la raid, cuando pasaba un mes o así, podías comprarte máximo 3 piezas que tú quisieras de la raid, entre armas y trinkets especiales. Tipo, imagínate la daga de Sylvanas, que era bis para el rogue. Si no me salía, yo podía gastar una de las 3 monedas en comprarme la daga de Sylvanas. Y aparte, por hacer reclears de mítico, conseguía tokens para subir esa daga a level de mítico. Era mucha facilidad para equiparse, para poder conseguir los ítems de las 3 raids y tal, pero es como eso, revisitar la expansión entera. Igual que las míticas. Las míticas van a ser, pues, bueno, en su momento pusieron todas las mega mazmorras por poner algo diferente, pero aquí, como nunca hemos tenido todas las mazmorras de Dragonflight, pues van a poner las 8 no, las 10 de Dragonflight. Que está súper bien la idea de Fate, porque es como, en lugar de dejaros el parche muerto, pues ponemos algo para que podáis hacer. Pero lo veo más como un, bueno, venga, para que os entretengáis. Pero no lo veo como un sustituto de un parche en condiciones, ¿sabes? Lo veo como un, bueno, mira, para que tengáis algo. Tienen que sacarse mucho la poronga en este Fated, ¿eh? En plan, dice que tiene muchas sorpresas bajo la manga. A ver qué hacen. La idea de Fated en sí me gusta, pero me gusta más un parche entero, ¿sabes?
Questions from many players around the world, and including myself. Will druids have dynamic flight in all of their flight forms? Or some, or will there be a new flight form specifically for dynamic flying for druids?
Can confirm that druids will have dynamic flight in their flight forms. That's how flying is going to work going forward.
Our next
Bueno, el druida tiene de base esto. Bueno, el evoker también, ¿no?
question is, Water Mist from the Warcraft Community Council. Why is static flying not available until level 80 while dynamic flying is immediately available off the bat? May we hear your reasoning for this, please?
Yeah, I can take that one. You know, we actually discussed this quite a bit as we were moving into Dragonflight, but something about dragon riding, it just makes the questing experience a lot more engaging and exciting, and, you know, it really changes the way you engage with the world. And also, you know, until you've really mastered it, there's a bit more variance to it, where, you know, with static flight, you can kind of like pop up, idle, look around, exactly pinpoint the quest mob, boop, land right on top of it, versus there's a lot more like, you know, active gameplay with dragon riding, aka dynamic flight. I have to train my brain now.
Yeah, me too.
Dynamic flight. So yeah, we just feel like, you know, that's a much more interesting way to engage with the world, especially during level up as you're still exploring. And then we will
que sí, que podemos volar, que sí, tío, que sí, que podemos volar con el dragón.
Que sí, ya me he enterado. Some really basic things that you might be used to, like explore the world, do some questing.
Que es el más bonito tiene.
We won't have renown on it. We learned that lesson. And then you'll be able to unlock it.
Yo tengo un polo muy parecido al de Hazicosta, ¿eh? Para mí me queda mejor, porque es más fuerte.
Our next question is from Dirty Paws from the Warcraft Community Council. Regarding professions, is the new system we got in Dragonflight staying? Are there any changes coming to what we saw in Dragonflight?
Es que estas preguntas, tío. Es que estas preguntas. No, es que, es que de verdad no sabes la respuesta a esta pregunta, tío. Te van a decir, no, vamos a volver a las profesiones antiguas. No sabemos, deja leer. ¿De verdad tú tienes la duda de si se va a mantener el sistema de profesiones en Dragonflight? ¿De verdad tienes dudas? ¿En serio me lo estás diciendo?
Yeah, totally. So in the War Within, you know, we will have new kind of specialization points where you can kind of customize your different professions as you are continuing to skill up in the War Within. Something else we're looking at is inspiration, the stat. You know, we added a bunch of cool new stats for crafting in Dragonflight. And inspiration is one that we've heard a lot of feedback on and kind of keeping an eye on, since, you know, ultimately sometimes you have to kind of crit your crafting to make it the most valuable one possible, and if you have to crit, then the crit isn't a crit anymore, it's success. So we're looking at that one. And then lastly, you know, we've seen a lot of great feedback around crafting orders and how people are enjoying that, but if you're not someone who's like at the bleeding edge of, you know, the crafting
A mí me encantan las profesiones de ahora,
it can be hard to find crafting orders that you can fill. So we're looking at ways to kind of increase availability of crafting orders. And one of the ideas that we're currently experimenting with, and not sure that this is something.
Fácil, si quieres que la gente vea más fácil el tema de los pedidos y no tener que estar por comercio, que la gente pueda postear. Ya está. En plan, que el crafting order haya como una subasta en el que tú buscas el ítem y si tú estás en Valdraken puedes ofrecerte y durante, yo que sé, media hora, una hora, dejas el puesto ahí y tal y si buscas, yo que sé, el Lariat, te sale una lista de la gente que está conectada, que está disponible para hacerlo porque en Valdraken se ha marcado como que está lista para hacer el craft y se lo mandas. Con eso, las crafting orders ya es día de día.
At the launch of War Within, but we think it's a really fun idea to explore is the idea of like NPC crafting orders, where maybe when you go to the crafting order UI, there'll be like someone, the Valdraken Accord wants you to make some stuff for them because, they're short on swords or something. They broke them all. Something like that could be really fun so that it increases the audience that can engage with the crafting orders. So
those are kind of the areas
that we're looking at for War Within.
Our next question is from Verald from Sargeras. How will the Warband's transmog unlocking work with class-locked items such as tier set tokens?
Yeah, we're still kind of working through the details there, but in terms of the tier set tokens, we imagine that would kind of remain to be soulbound. Certainly that's an area where we're looking to get feedback on. Like I know there are people who have multiple of one character. So that's
no tengo nada que decir a esta
pregunta.
Pregunta
so that's definitely something
rolera.
that we'll be listening to feedback on, but right now the plans are those will stay soulbound, but that doesn't mean if based on feedback we couldn't find some alternative solutions there.
Yeah, I think it's going to vary across legacy content. Set pieces were obtained in some different ways.
Right.
I think, if specifically...
Esto en plan, Tranfis antiguas igual que Repus antiguas, con el Warbound no va a salir de entrada. Poco a poco irán trabajando, iterando sobre ello.
As personal loot or otherwise, something is obtained directly as the warrior set, then you'll have to earn that on a warrior. There won't be a way to, when playing your rogue, collect a warrior appearance if it's dropping with class-specific logic. In others, with regard to generalized item drops, though, the goal is just for armor type not to matter.
Okay.
Once you have the item in your possession, if you don't know the appearance will be added to your warband.
Class sets are a fun one, though, because it's changed how those have actually been acquired so many times over the years that the team's really going to have to dig in and look at each individual one and hopefully come up with solutions, but yeah.
I trust them. I believe. Our next question is from Maury from Discord. Can we opt out of warbands?
Not currently.
Un tío preguntando si puedo no tener todo mi progreso ligado a la cuenta. Tío, pues págate 3 cuentas de Battle y juega cada uno en una cuenta. ¿Qué quiere que te diga, tío? Es como que dice, ¿puedo no hacer Dragon Riding? ¿Puedo no conseguir la montura de dragón? Que no me gustan los dragones.
That is not the plan. You will have your warband across all of your characters. We have discussed certain elements of warbands that maybe you wouldn't want to have available on like a brand new character, right? Like one of those examples is exploration. We know often exploration is actually really helpful when you're leveling a new character to know, wait, where haven't I been, right? So that's one of those kind of unique areas where we've looked at and said, like, actually this is a space where maybe we don't want to do that just from a pure gameplay perspective. It would actually be less convenient to have that. So definitely looking at areas like that.
Esa pregunta es G,
to make adjustments to.
Yeah, I'd definitely be curious to kind of hear a bit more about what's behind this question. Like, if there's someone who's looking to opt out of warbands, what aspect of it would you not want defaulted to being inherently account-wide? Because most of this to us, based on the feedback we've heard from players, certainly over the years, feels like universally desirable convenience. But if we're overlooking something, we definitely like to hear that feedback.
I'll be sure to forward that over once I get it. Our next question is from Ravage from the Warcraft Community Council. How will account-wide everything work for people who have multiple accounts on one client? Will each account be separated by their licenses, or will all licenses?
Bueno, esto no me importa.
Interacting with certain.
Voy a saltar preguntas que no me importan, te lo digo en serio.
View that I've been on multiple characters, how
Work with the opponent.
Has tap to earn certain certain progress across your account.
All right, our next question is from Severex from the Guild Unleashed. How will account-wide rep work with the opposing factions, such as Frenzy Heart Tribe versus Oracles and the Aldor versus...
Pregunta muy rolera, extremadamente rolera.
Our next question is from Varlens from France. How many characters can we fit into a warband, and are we limited to one warband per account?
Todos, ¿no? Warband es todos.
I believe it is 50 characters per WoW account, but like we said, you can have
60
more.
as of Dragonflight.
Oh, 60 as of Dragonflight.
Used to be
I have
50.
old info here.
We raised the cap because of those amazing hardcore altaholics out there who had 50 characters, and then we're like, here is Evoker. delete one of your characters. Okay, let's raise the cap.
So
yeah.
60 per WoW account, but like we said, you can have multiple accounts in your warband, but only one will share the character select screen.
Dijeron número limitado, pero claro, el límite es el número de personajes que te puede crear. Es que yo creo que la gente se piensa que los warbands es que tú eliges meter. Es que claro, es que por la descripción suena que es un grupo elegido en el que comparten la repu, tipo, no, tengo que meter solamente los mains. No, es que simplemente tendrían que haber quitado el nombre de Warbands y decir, todo es ligado a la cuenta, ¿sabes? Más fácil. Pero bueno, por ponerle un nombre, pero no, claro, todo tu personaje.
That is so much. Nice. Our next question is from the Cat's Meow from the Guild Garbage. Will Mythic Plus portals be account bound?
Yes, so as of about 12
Ya lo
hours
son,
ago,
¿no?
I was talking to the team and
¿Ya lo son los portales? ¿No lo son los portales? No lo son. Es que ¿sabes qué pasa? Que como estaba de DPS, digo, yo no me he sacado las piedras de DPS. Digo, ¿qué está pasando? Yo no he hecho piedras de DPS, no, las he hecho de aumento, claro. Es verdad. No, me fumó un porrito.
felt like, yes, in War Within, your portals can be account bound.
All right. Our next question is from Roland from France. Can we customize the background of the warband menu, please?
O esto, si sacan en la tienda fondos por dinero, esta gente se hace de oro. Vean, porque esto no sé si se lo sabéis, pero esto es la nueva selección de personajes. Sale así. Salen tus personajes aquí en el centro y tú eliges cuál, como en el Lost Ark o así. Si esta gente pone diferentes fondos de pago, la de dinero que sacan, yo el primero, la de dinero que sacan, my god.
So this is a request we've heard from a few folks since rolling out that look at the new character select screen. We're gonna have one cool backdrop at launch in War Within. Definitely feedback there is heard loud and clear. We're looking into, I think adding that functionality and customization down the line. It's not going to be something we can do right at launch. But I think as we've said a couple of times, we really see warbands as a foundation to build upon. And so, yeah, like the idea that as you reach a certain warband renown level with a certain group, if you could have their settlement, if you like their vibe, you like their general architecture, if you could unlock using their settlement as your background character select screen, that's the kind of thing we'd love to chase in the future, but not at War Within launch.
Okay. Our next question is from Alistair from Germany. Since you're also revamping the banks through the warband feature, are there also plans to revise or expand the general bag's bank storage system? Will we finally be able to replace the standard bag?
No entiendo esta pregunta, pero ¿quieren cambiar las mochilas?
To look at a broader kind of revamp there. Ultimately, often when we hear this feedback, we'll look to try to really look at more tactical solutions, right? Like an upgrade in the dream, those will move.
Antes o después de la foto hablaste con Aztecostas. Antes y después.
Those keys kind of live and look at what we should be
G warbands.
Que sí.
Is there something more you can do about bag bloat? The warband bank sounds like a step in the right direction, but we're still piling up valuable items faster than our bags are growing.
Pretty much what Morgan just said to
like,
that. It's something that we've heard probably more than ever over the course of Dragonflight. When we've really doubled down on more varied world content in particular, which tends to have localized little systems and ecosystems, and you're gathering fragments as part of one event, or you're getting something else that's tied to a vendor as part of another. That can very quickly become overwhelming. We've been actively surveying, looking at what items are most commonly in players' bags and trying to use that to guide our development philosophy going forward. The answer, as Morgan said on the last question, isn't more bag space. At some point, if you have 120 things already, that is an overwhelming amount of stuff. We should be trying to limit what we're asking you to hold rather than just giving you more and more space until you can't even find anything in your own inventory anymore.
Yeah.
A change that we are making in War Within also that will help to a small degree here is we're actually having, this is so exciting for me, but I'm sure most people are like, what are you talking about? Is there will be subheaders within the currency tab. So we can start to do things like say, hey, here are my War Within currencies. And then say, here's Season 1 War Within currencies. And that way you can just say all right, collapse that. I don't want to see all the currency bloat as we've seen in the past.
Está hablando del addon Plumber, está hablando. Del tema aquí de las monedas. Está hablando de este addon. Vaya. Está hablando de este addon. De que va a haber una división más clara de las monedas y puedes organizar lo que quieres ver y lo que no quieres ver.
Because, a lot of the time the team does discuss hey, should this be a currency or should this be an item in the bag or how do we want to deal with that? And often the question is, well, is it evergreen or is it seasonal? And if it's seasonal, we often say, all right, it should be an item in your bag because we don't want that to be bloating my currency tab for the whole expansion. But in War Within, having the ability to have those kind of subheaders will, I think, help a lot in terms of being able to leverage that system more.
All right. Our next question is from Stud Muffin from...
Ay. ¿Queda alguna pregunta interesante? Oye, de verdad, es que te lo digo en serio. Ay, Carlos, es que te quejas por todo. Tío, es que estas preguntas, tío. Es que, tío. ¿Habrá trading por la siguiente expansión? No, lo vamos a quitar.
November of a couple of sort of, what sort?
I tricked
Lifted, cross-server groups and guilds, item and gold transfers, and region-wide auction house. What can we expect?
Seven merging, a ver qué van a hacer, sí. Eso sí que te curiosidad.
So, our approach so far has really been to tear down those barriers. Many aspects of the auction house still are realm-based. The commodities portion of it is region-wide, but there are still a lot of things that are rooted in server, not least of which is everyone's names and their guild names. But really, for now, our focus is on making it not matter what server you're on when it comes to basically any facet of your gameplay. If we reach a point down the line where we fully accomplished that goal, and it really raises the question of why do these exist at all.
La gente que hace esa pregunta se mira la educación media. Nah, a ver, los entiendo, no son periodistas, ¿sabes?
Our next question is from Phenomenon
Son
from
gente
the Warcraft
normal.
Community Council. Will there be another stat squish? And if so, what does that look like this time? If another stat squish is enacted, will the team be looking into the after effects that occur in regards to legacy content?
So we're not currently planning on a stat squish for War Within. We're going to have some pretty large numbers, but they're comparable to numbers that we saw in Legion, let's say.
Número de legión, me gusta eso, Uy, me gusta. Ojalá no hagan stat squish, Me encanta en plan hacer millones de DPS, me encanta. Me pone muy feliz hacer millones de daño. Y ver números
certainly
grandes.
going to do a stat squish again at midnight. When we get there, we've gotten better, basically, at doing this over the years. It's
En Midnight van a hacer en la segunda expansión. Ay, no. No, yo quiero hacer millones de daño. No me hagas stat squish. Es que me gusta mucho ver números grandes. Yo sé que, no sé si ustedes sois más de números grandes o números pequeños. A mí me encanta ver números grandes. Me encanta. Es mi pasión. Cuanto más números veo, más fuerte me siento. Yo ver que hago 4K de DPS, me siento débil, ¿sabes? Me siento que no estoy haciendo nada. Ver millones de daño, aunque esté último en DPS, me siento poderoso. Me digo, mira, 3 millones de un viscerate. Insano, ¿sabes? Pasa esos moods de juegos orientales, ¿no? Lo de ver 80.000 números en pantalla. Gracias, Alan, querido, por los 9 meses. Gracias.
less of an ad hoc process and something we have more structure around. So I think I'm confident that we'll be able to better address legacy scaling. And as always, when we roll it out, make sure to roll it out from day one of the Midnight Alpha, so that we can have all the time needed to get any feedback or catch things we might have missed to make sure that it's not disruptive when it comes to legacy content.
Our next question is from Raining Metal from Discord. Will the nature of the group finders, such as for looking for raids, dungeons, and time walking, ever be made cross-faction?
So there's aspects there that we want to continue to expand. The pre-made group finder is inherently cross-faction for groups that you can form and walk into instances. It's an opt-in activity by design. And I think our plan is to keep it that way, in the sense of avoiding situations where someone is randomly queuing up for something and then just finding themselves in a group with members of the opposite faction in a way that can sort of violate some fundamental boundaries in the rest of the in-world Azeroth fiction. Our focus is on letting people play with their friends.
Se está enrollando un montón.
Now we recognize, though, that there are some activities, time walking probably being the most notable among them, that can only be accessed via queuing. And there, what we would like to do, and we are working on this, is have the ability to say that, yes, if you're a pre-made cross-faction group, you can queue up for any of these queued activities, but that's not quite the same as random matchmaking with people who aren't opting into that cross-faction gameplay.
Our next question is from Rugsy from Discord. Can we expect to see the continuation of expanded character customization in
me la pela.
More.
Our next question is from Shalandana from Germany. Why do we travel back in time in Midnight the Last Titan, and what does this mean? Are we talking about specific zones or an actual complete new old version of the world?
So I think there's a misconception at the root of this question. This is definitely, we're not traveling in time at all. We have just healed the timeways as of Dawn of the Infinite recently. We don't need to venture there anytime soon, promise. When Chris mentioned said returning to the old world, he didn't mean old in the sense of temporal, but actually just returning.
Pregunta estúpida.
So
you can right now, but also as well itself.
From Zella from the guild Almost Sane. In the deep dive, it was mentioned that some flying mounts would be ineligible for dynamic flight due to animation concerns. Could we get some examples of this?
¡Ah! ¡De verdad! ¡De preguntas buenas, tío!
So I think
Otra pregunta de mierda.
There's Raid Lock S Club. Love that guild name, by the way. Are Delve Gear Rewards going to be done in a raid lockout style?
Los
Daily
devs
Mythic
son
style, or
recompensa
something?
de una mítica 10. ¿Qué más te dan?
Yeah, so caveat here, you know, this is all
Esto lo dijeron también en la charla. Que había cap semanal de lo fuerte para que no pudieses turbo farmear las primeras semanas, pero que siempre podías conseguir un poquito de equipo. Esto ya lo respondieron.
subject to change based on player feedback. We're excited to get this into players' hands.
La
with,
comunidad de
you know,
WoW igual a
alpha is-
casuals. No, desde luego que sí. Esta expansión pinta muy bien para los casuals. Un montón de cosas para casuals. Por ejemplo, lo de los Delves, que sea un progress de endgame para los casuals, que no tengas que meterte en ninguna raid, en ninguna mythic, que consigas equipo de una más 10, eso es la polla para los casuals. Porque siempre puedes estar haciendo algo y sientes que te estás equipando y que estás consiguiendo cosas. Y puedes abrir el baúl también haciendo contenido de mundo. Eso está súper bien. Pasa que yo me queda un poco con las ganas de este anuncio de expansión o de features, de que digan algo de lo que yo juego, ¿sabes? Del endgame.
and beta as soon as possible. Currently, what we're thinking is that you'll be able to run delves kind of as much as you would like. You know, we don't want to have lockouts or anything on those. But as I mentioned, there will be these keys that you can kind of collect, both rare and epic keys. You know, an epic key would probably be something that is, you know, like given from the Aiding the Accord style quest, like on a weekly cadence, where the rare keys you can earn from doing activities in the outdoor world, and those are a bit more repeatable. And the gear would most likely be coming from those big, you know, locked chests. But you would still be able to earn things like reputation, faction, a lot of other stuff from
Opina que la última dos expansiones casi todos los tiers de míticos son morados. Perfecto, mi color favorito.
You'll be able to do that whenever you feel like it. You won't need keys to get in there. So that's the current plan with Delves in terms of the rewards and the itemization of how that will flow. And of course, you'll be able to get gear from the Great Vault from the Delves.
Yeah.
And the current plan there is that
Y de
you'll be
hecho,
able to kind of fill
el
that
tier de
outdoor road bar
Shadowlands
from doing
era
any
blanco
number of those outdoor
y rojo.
activities.
El de mítico no era morado.
But the, like, kind of, we call it
Está
high
solamente
watermark,
remitiéndote
right?
a esta
How high
expansión, no a las
the
últimas dos
level you're gonna
expansiones.
see from
Probablemente
the
los
delve
últimos dos
or
tiers,
from
así
the
que
outdoor road would be from
dale un
how
repaso a las
challenging delves
raids
you might have done for the week.
y date cuenta de que no es
Next
así.
question from Akacha from Alex Draza server. Do the hero spec trees mean we will get some of the old playstyles back, such as dual-wield survival hunter or two-hand enhancement shaman?
This is a fun question. As we were talking about hero talents early on, you know, like one of the ideas I loved was, you know, we were talking about Priest and we were talking about Anduin, and you know, we saw him in his kind of like battle gear, and I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to have a priest in plate armor? Like, look at Anduin, how cool is that? And then the more we got to talking about that, the more we were like, that would cause such massive itemization concerns, right? Like, we all meme about like hunter loot, but like the problems that could occur just in terms of like getting gear for different specializations based on, wait, just because you're a different hero
Siempre
spec,
pregunta lo del
suddenly
chamán
you
a
need
dos
this
manos.
item that I'm not used to
Sí.
people needing. So we
No que
wanted
Anduin
to
era un
really
pala, no.
avoid any of those kind of
Anduin es
problems.
un priest que
We
lleva
do think it's
placa.
a fun space
No
to
pala.
explore, but that's not currently
Y la espada
something that
de su
we would
padre.
do with hero
Simplemente
talents.
no
If we
tiene-
wanted to
no
make
tiene
a change like
proficiencia
that,
para
we
llevarla
wanna
bien,
make it
y ya está.
much more global, so that was a lot more understandable.
Our next question is from Selenis from France. Will
Ojo.
archaeology make a comeback in the World
Ojo.
10?
So archaeology, as it's been known in the past, I think the triangulation minigame, I do not think is likely to return in that form. I think when we look at archaeology, we understand,
No hay.
we hear these questions, understand the desire for and the interest in both the fantasy of just uncovering and unearthing aspects of Azeroth's
Vaya
history,
arqueología.
and the cultures that have lived here for centuries or thousands
¿Qué
of
arqueología?
years.
Era una profesión antigua.
Also, it's a chance to collect some cool cosmetics.
Era de buscar
and more.
tesoros en
So
sitios.
I think we're looking
y
for
tal.
different vehicles for
Para
different
conseguir
outlets
monturas y cosas.
for that gameplay, for those rewards. It's not hard to imagine, Delve scratching a little bit of that itch as we're journeying with Bran into some of these vaults and locations throughout Khazalgar that we might, in addition to loot and other things, be piecing together some pieces of a larger narrative and relics of the past. And it's something that the team doesn't want to let go of, entirely. But the feedback we heard by and large about the triangulation minigame was that it was frankly more tedious than fun. And that was, I think, the majority opinion. I know that there's a minority who loved it.
Yo nunca he hecho
but I think
arqueología.
we, in
Creo
this
que he
case,
hecho
are
3 veces
listening
arqueología
to
en mi
and
vida.
are guided by the feedback that we're hearing in aggregate.
Así que de ahí no puedo
Actually
opinar.
will be
Pero
a-
a la gente le gusta arqueología o a la gente le gustaban las recompensas que había por arqueología? Porque yo hacía arqueología y digo, hermano, vaya coñazo, tener que estar dándole, ver el pi, acercarme y excavar. Era por las recompensas, ¿verdad? Ya está. ¿Era porque? Bueno, era una forma fácil de conseguir monturas y ya está. Pues que te la pongan de otra manera, ¿no? Creo que la gente echa de menos a la recompensa y no a la profesión, ¿verdad? Vial de las arenas, ¿se consigue con arqueología?
Not archaeology, but a fun feature that is gonna help scratch at that itch that Ian was talking about and really dive into some more like of the lore of the world in one of those future updates for Dragonflight called Azerothian Archives, which is, you know, an opportunity for us to...
Acaban de decir el nombre de... Acaban de decir el nombre del siguiente parche. Acaban de liquear aquí el nombre del siguiente parche. Archivos de Azeroth.
dive into some more like of the lore of the world in one of those future updates for Dragonflight called Azerothian Archives.
Sí, archivos acerocianos. Acaban de decir el nombre del siguiente parche. Tal cual, y se han quedado tan pancho.
You know, an opportunity for us to kind of...
Nah, ya tiene vídeo alter time. Debes saberlo. Se anuncia el siguiente
take another view at how we
muy tonto, tío. Ya está, cállate, Carlos, eres muy tonto. No digo muchas tonterías, déjame en paz, no me doy cuenta.
More of, you know, we're always talking about ways to kind of add depth to the world and add, you know, just the discoverability of some of the story of, you know, these spaces that we're visiting to have so much history and life to them, and having ways to discover that is always something that we're talking about. How can we inject into the world?
Yeah, more info on that coming soon.
Our next question comes from Harrison B. from the One Risk Record server. Going into the War Within, are there measures in place to ensure accuracy with previous storylines?
Yeah, I think yes, always, right? We have a vast team of actual literal, you know, lore historians in our story and franchise development group. We have a fellow by the name of Christopher Metzen.
Bien, se lo pasó súper bien.
Who knows a thing or two about, you know, just the broad arc of Warcraft history.
Sí, que si el lore va a seguir fiel. Bueno.
Multi-stage casting mechanic from Evoker to other classes. I'd love to see it on Chaos Bolt.
No plans to extend that out in the War Within. You know, when we have new kind of iconic mechanics like that for classes, we like to kind of keep them sacred for a little while. And, you know, we're not quite out of that window yet, but it's certainly something that, trust me, the team has talked about and they're excited to explore in different spaces. You know, there's obvious examples like, you know, Chaos Bolt's a fun one, but also Hunters are one that I've heard the feedback a lot of times, like, can I just pull the bow, you know, more and more? It's very iconic in terms of gaming mechanics. So definitely something we're talking about, but not something that we're looking to extend in the War Within.
Thank you so much, guys, for talking about the War Within today.
Thank you all for the amazing questions. This is really just the tip of the iceberg, right? We just, so exciting for us to pull back.
Ya está. Ninguna pregunta de Endgame. No, lo del... ¿Cuál era lo interesante? Algo de los Warbounds que dijeron, ¿no? De los Warbands. El tema de los crafting orders, que no creo que sea la solución. Porque claro, el problema está en que Blizzard, cuando ve que no hay Dragon Orders, o sea, que no hay Profession Orders, lo ven como malo porque no puedes subir tus profesiones. Porque ellos lo miran desde el punto de levearte profesiones y de, ¿cómo se dice? De aprender, ¿no? Digamos, de aprender recetas y de craftearlas por primera vez, cosas que tú no quieres. Y por eso han dicho lo de los NPCs. Pero claro, yo es que no lo veo como quiero hacer X piezas que nunca las voy a usar porque quiero el puntito de profesión. Yo lo veo más como quiero hacerme una pieza para mi personaje para endgame. Yo lo veo más desde el punto, no desde el crafter, sino del... O sea, no el punto del artesano, sino el punto del cliente. Un cliente quiere una pieza potente, quiere una pieza fuerte y quiere poder encontrarla, no tiene que estar por comercio buscando a alguien. Tan fácil sería poner eso, que en la mesa de encargos, que en el buscador de ítems tú le das a las botas tóxicas y en lugar de salirte los materiales te salga una lista de la gente que está disponible para hacértelo. Y tú puedas, como artesano, ir a la mesa de encargos y decir, estoy disponible para craftear durante estos 30 minutos. Y mientras no salgas de Valdraken, apareces como disponible. Y si en algún momento te pones AFK, porque te levantas del ordenador y se te queda la pantalla en AFK, se te quita de artesano disponible. Algo así, tío. Y así es mucho más fácil conectar cliente-artesano, ¿sabes?